All right, so Ontario has gone full 1984, authoritarian, draconian, and Doug Ford basically announced yesterday saying, "Today I issued a stay-at-home order for Ontario effective Thursday, January 14th at 12:01 a.m. Under this order, everyone must stay home and only go out for essential trips to pick up groceries or go to medical appointments." Yeah, and this is more of the same. This is just more of the same, and like I've been bringing up for a while now. Things aren't going back to normal. As bad as that is, and as much as that bothers me, and probably most people watching, things aren't going back to normal anytime soon. I don't believe, because the reality is that the governments just keep moving the goalposts. They've been moving the goalposts for 10 months straight now, right? Like, just imagine, we started out with 15 days or 14 days, whatever you want to call it, to slow the spread, right? The original plan was simply, let's shut down for a small period of time to slow the spread, right? It was never just, completely end the spread. No, it was never any of this stuff they're bringing up now. And then we get mask mandates, right? It's been for a while. We got to wait till there's a vaccine, right? We got to wait till there's a vaccine. And now there's a vaccine, the lockdowns are even more stringent than they've ever been. Um, so again, it's absolutely insane that this is where we're at. The big problem too is just the average person. Something I've been bringing up for quite a while, not quite a while, but a little while now, is that I don't think most people support this stuff. Personally, I believe, and I think the real polls show it, not the fake ones the media puts out sometimes, in that their own ones that they can't mess with themselves show this too, is that the majority of people don't support this stuff. And one of the ways that they get people to support these polls is that they manipulate the wording. It'll be something along the lines of, Australia implemented a lockdown, and it led to a reduction in cases, and experts agree that it will reduce cases. Do you think we should do what Australia did? That's what they like to do, right? Rather than simply saying, do you support a lockdown to where if you're caught outside without the government's permission, we're going to throw you in jail, and we're going to throw you in jail if you make Facebook posts that go against the government narrative, right? Because that's what Australia did. So again, it all depends on how they word these questions, right? And if they word it anything other than simply, do you support lockdowns? Do you support this? Do you support that? If they throw in these caveats that are very misleading, and again, the whole idea that Australia is proof that lockdowns work is also very misleading as well. But again, the point remains that the only way that polls are relevant is if you ask something directly, right? Is if you ask something directly. But the thing I bring up with the average person is I've hardly I know one person that I've talked to that knows someone that supports these lockdowns, and they literally have like OCD levels of paranoia when it comes to this situation. So it doesn't surprise me at all. But again, other than that, literally everybody I talk to is either somewhat skeptical or very skeptical. Literally everybody I've talked to, in person at least. And there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about it, but and again, these are people, again, like, if you came to Christmas with your family, I'm going to assume, unless you are walking around with a mask and won't shake hands and washing your hands a million times, I'm going to assume that you don't believe in this garbage. And literally everybody I've seen at Christmas, that's what their situation was, right? So I was at the dentist yesterday, and the dentist was talking about, oh, what'd you do for Christmas? And I got the sense that they kind of agreed. So I told them, and they said, oh yeah, I did the same. And that they said, yeah, well, I don't know why we had to do that. Another person that I heard today, they're talking about how stupid these mask mandates are. So again, I don't believe for one second the majority of people support this stuff. And again, like, I thought we live in a democracy, right? I thought we live in a democracy. Right? It's the same thing that goes with these tech companies, right? That you know 230 protects all these other, Twitter and Facebook. Like, Facebook has had murders live streamed on their platform, and that's not enough to shut them down. But someone misinterprets something Trump says, and that's enough to shut him down, right? The world is so backwards right now, it's not even funny, right? The world is so backwards. it's not even funny. And again, getting through to a lot of these people, it's just it's not worth, like, I mean, it's worth trying, but you're not going to get anywhere. Like, you're not going to get anywhere. So at the end of the day, what's going to come of this? More doubling down, like more doubling down. And I think the only thing that encourages me is that eventually things are going to get so draconian that even the people that mock the people that think that we live in a communist country right now, which we effectively do, let's stop pretending we don't, or an authoritarian communist country, I would say. I mean, there's obviously a lot of aspects of communism we don't have, but the idea of other people are, this whole collective responsibility and this garbage, and a you got to listen to the dear leaders kind of situation. Yeah, in that situation, we are communists, right? We are authoritarian, absolutely. um, but again, the point remains that I don't think things are going to change anytime soon. I think it's going to be hard for like to say, the one thing that does encourage me is I think it's going to be hard for governments to maintain the illusion, because they have now painted themselves into a corner that eventually, when you keep doubling down, eventually it gets to the point where you have to start throwing everyday people in jail. And that's going to be really bad for optics. Like, that's going to be really bad for optics. And I think that's the point. That's where we're going to end up being. Like, that's where we are going to end up being. Is that everyday people who just want to earn an honest living, who just don't want to drive themselves crazy because they have to stay home 24/7 and can go out maybe once a week if they're lucky for groceries, right? And this is another thing too that I've been predicting. I've said before, I think too, is that I think eventually someone's going to go absolutely insane, and I don't even want to venture to guess what's going to happen, but it's going to be a horrible event. Like, you're going to get someone who has just had enough. They've lost their livelihood, they've lost their life savings, and they're just like going to be like, screw it, I'm going to go absolutely insane. Like that's someone's going to do that eventually, because again, given where we're at right now, I'm surprised someone hasn't done that. But when that does happen, that's just going to give the government more of an excuse to crack down even further. So that's another bad sign. But again, eventually it's going to get to the point to where if you're seeing people getting arrested and getting thrown in jail for just wanting to have a normal life, like, I want to think eventually enough people are going to speak up against this stuff. Like, I want to think eventually that's going to happen, but I don't know. I really don't know. Um, so anyway, the next thing I wanted to bring up here is from Lauren Southern, quoting the WHO from March 26th, saying, if you don't have any respiratory symptoms such as fever, cough, or runny nose, you do not need to wear a mask. When used alone, masks can give you a false feeling of protection and can even be a source of infection when not used correctly. Again, the one thing that the mask zealots always bring up is, oh, the science has changed. But no, the science doesn't change on that, right? The concept of a mask giving a false sense of security, there is no scientific study that can be done to debunk that, because it is a feeling, right? You can't have a study to back that kind of stuff up. And number two, the studies haven't changed, right? There are studies that show that masks work, and there's studies that show that masks don't work. And both sides will just point to the specific ones to try and prove their point. But the reality behind masks is that regardless of what the science says, if real world data doesn't back up what the quote unquote science says, then whatever the science says is irrelevant, right? Like, if if a magic pill was made to lose weight, that this pill, studies show this pill guaranteed to lose weight, and they give it to people, and people aren't losing weight, at least on average, well, it doesn't matter what the studies say. If it doesn't work in the real world, it doesn't matter. And that's what goes for masks too, is that they don't work in the real world. And this is the thing that bothers me most about these people, because someone like me, who's a complete amateur when it comes to this stuff, was smarter than these people. Was smarter because back when these mask mandates were being implemented, I said there's no point in doing it because the vast majority of people don't wear them properly. And number two, most people wear the cloth masks, which the data doesn't show they work. There's no data that shows that the cloth masks work. Again, so if you're not wearing a mask properly, there's no point in wearing it, right? There's no point in wearing it. And this is the thing that people seem to think, that somehow that does make a difference. But again, if you have smallest amount of degree of knowledge when it comes to this stuff, you'd know that constantly pulling your mask up and down and constantly touching your face is not going to help things. Remember when we first got into this situation, it was don't touch your face. That was one of the most important things they told us. Now it's perfectly fine. You can touch your face as much as you want, just as long as you're wearing your mask. Even if you're pulling your mask up and down every 5 seconds, it's still fine. It's still fine. You can touch your face all you want. Like again, like this is the reason why the average person is so stupid, is because their attention span is so short that they don't remember this stuff. Or they do remember it and they're just dumb enough to go along with it. I really don't know. The next thing from Jim Burnett saying, something I found out tonight, incarcerated criminals will get vaccinated before incarcerated seniors in nursing home and retirement homes, and some Trudeau supporters are okay with that. And again, this doesn't make any sense too. Like if the vaccine's going to be, this is the thing too when it comes to prisons too. This is one of the other many reasons why anybody who takes this whole situation seriously still is insane, because again, prisons are the most controlled environments in the world, right? They are the most controlled environments in the world. So if we can't stop the virus from spreading in prisons, we're not going to do it anywhere else, right? We're not going to do it anywhere else. This is the reason why, keeping drugs illegal and pretty much any of these kind of things illegal is stupid, because again, the government can't even keep drugs out of prisons, right? They're the most and this is another reason why people who want to ban guns and ban knives are stupid, because again, like you can make a weapon out of anything, right? You can make a weapon out of anything. So yeah, the point remains that I guess that's the first point, but the big point I was trying to think of is, okay, this makes absolutely zero sense. Like it makes absolutely zero sense. So what is the most likely scenario here? Why do I think the government's doing it? Well, personally, I believe, again, I don't know this for sure, but personally, I believe is that anybody with half a brain knows that this virus, again, you're taking this virus, you're basically a walking experiment. You're a walking experiment, because any vaccine for that matter, because again, vaccines are never there's no double-blind placebo-controlled trials on vaccines. They're always just compared to other vaccines. Number two, the manufacturers have no liability whatsoever. And the most important point when it comes to this one too is that there's very little, if any, testing that's been done on it. So again, you are basically a walking experiment. So why are we going to give prisoners the vaccine? I think it's because we want to have our own little experiment. This is the government's own little experiment that we can say, hey, and this is the reason why they're giving it to them so early too, is that they're going to be some of the first people that get it. And I think another big one too is that prisoners are usually a young, moderately healthy, probably not overly healthy, but at least moderately healthy population, right? So it's a good test group, right? It's a good test group because again, they can test these people and they'll be able to say, okay, and not to mention too, it's easy to rule out other factors, because again, if you get a side effect from a vaccine and you live in the real world, then it's possible that something else caused that side effect. But again, in prison, everybody's eating the same thing, the environment's the exact same, right? So it's very easy to figure out what side effects are caused by what, right? So I think that's the reason they're doing that. I think that the reason they're doing it is simply to have a test group that are basically, human experiments, human guinea pigs. And the last thing I wanted to bring up here is from Paul Mitchell. Let's see if it'll load here. Basically, pointing out the Edmonton BLM activist celebrates the death of that Calgary police officer that was killed. And again, these are some of the people that are in BLM. And is this everybody in BLM? Is this a majority of people that are in BLM? No, I don't think so. But there is enough of these people. And again, the amount of cops that have been killed by BLM supporters or people that claim to be BLM supporters is too many to not notice a correlation here. And this is one of the many things that bothers me about BLM, and I think anybody with half a brain, is that if any other group, like just imagine if the Proud Boys had killed as many cops as BLM has. People would be they already are going insane over the Proud Boys, even though Proud Boys are rather milquetoast, at least compared to what the these leftists would have you think. And again, I don't really know that much about the Proud Boys, but the one thing I do know about the Proud Boys is they don't actively go around beating people who disagree with them politically. They're not going around killing cops like Antifa and BLM do. So again, the point remains that there is too many of these people within BLM to take them seriously. Not to mention, too, I really don't think they care about Black lives and all this kind of stuff. It's just a front to push for leftism, which is same thing goes for climate change and a lot of these issues that they pretend to have this noble cause, giving people the guise that, oh, we have this noble cause, you got to support us, and then the real cause is pushing for these leftist policies, right? So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. Again, very important you do that. YouTube, Twitter, they're all cracking down. So make sure you check me out on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. But again, at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.